Welcome again to our 7th lesson on functions. Today, what we're going to be doing today is looking at function problems. Some of the questions they can ask in exam. I'm just putting everything together that we'll be learning this time. Sometimes you'll be involved also in solving equations. You'll be using these functions to make up an equation and then just to solve them. So if you look at question 1, it says, let f of x be fx, 4x taken to 7, and gx, or g of x, be 1 all over 3x plus 2. They want you to solve the equation f(g) of x equals to 1. Okay, that's what they want you to do. But before we do that, I want us to just solve the equation. Let's pretend that f of x, yes, so let f of x, if I pretend that f of x, so f of x is equals to g of x. Okay. Now let's pretend that's the case, and just pretend we want to solve this thing. Now when f of x equals g of x, easy, you just equate them. So 4x minus 7 equals to 1, 3x plus 2. Pretend that that's what they asked you to do. Now, 4x minus 7 can be written as a fraction. So 4x minus 7 can be written as a fraction with 1 at the bottom. And all you need to do is to cross multiply them. So I'm going to have 4x minus 7 bracket 3x plus 2. All this equals to 1 because you times in that and we times in that 1. So if you open this, you got quadratic bracket, you're going to have 12x squared. Then you're going to have 8x timesing up. You're going to have 8x there. So remember, I've done 4x times 3x, 4x times 2. And that's where I'm getting this from. Then I'm going to do negative 7 times by 3x. So negative 7 times 3x, 21x. Negative 7 times by 2 is going to be negative 14. And then on the other side, I've got 0. Then all I need to do is to simplify here. I've got 12x squared equals to 8x minus 21x, which is going to be minus 13x. Now this minus 14, what I can basically do is to bring the 1 over this side. So I've got minus 14 minus 1, which becomes that. And again, simplifying, I've got 12x squared minus 13x minus 15. Remember, minus 14 minus 1 becomes minus 15, and that equals to 0. Now, you can see that then I'm ending up with quadratic equation here, which if I can factorize. If I can't, I can just basically use the quadratic equation. So I want you to try use this. I've got x equals to minus b plus or minus b squared. Remember the formula, b squared minus 4 times by a times by c, all divided by 2 times by a. Okay. Now I want you to use this formula. I'm not going to be focusing on this today, but I want you to use this formula where a is the number in front of x squared, is the coefficient of x squared, which is the number in front there, and where b is the coefficient of x, and in this case is negative 30, and c is always the constant at the end, which is not 15, is negative 15. Okay, so what I want you to do now, using your calculator, I would like you to basically sub that here using plus first, and then do the very same thing using minus and get those two values, and then try and sub them in here and there and see where the left and the right is the same. So what I'm saying is that when you have been asked to equate f of x to g of x, you can equate it ordinarily and then just solve them as you normally do with solving linear equations or quadratic equations or cubic functions, anything. Okay, right. But let's solve the equation f(g) of x equals to 1. Let's solve the equation f(g) of x equals to 1. So step number 1, find the expression f(g) of x first. That's the first thing you need to do. So find f(g) of x as an expression. You might want to pause the video. And then once you've done that, then you can then equate it to 1 and then just solve it for x. Okay. So let's do that. So we said in an earlier video that f(g) of x means you take the g of x and you put it in the f of x where x is. In other words, g of x, this one becomes the input for f. Let's try. So f of x is equals to that 4, and we're going to times it by the x, the input. But this time, right, the input is g of x. So 1 all divided by 3x plus 2. Okay, and then you close the bracket because that's what x is. That's what the input is, and we minus 7 there. Then you just basically simplify. 4 times 1 is 4 all over 3x plus 2. Then I got minus 7. So you've got the expression now. All you now need to do is to so that was fg of x. So fg of x. So there should be fg of x there. Sorry about that. Now what you now need to do is basically now to equate it to 1. Okay, so we're just going to equate it now to 1, and then you basically solve it from there as you normally solve equations. Okay, so you just sort of normally solve equations, and that's what I want to do now for you. Remember, the aim of my videos is to make you get an A star or an A or grade 8 or 9 in your Maths GCSE or IGCSE. So we've got 4 all over 3x plus 2, take away 7 equals to 1. Okay, I want to solve this. The best way to do this is first of all to get rid of that minus 7, put it aside. I've got 4 all over 3x plus 2 equals to 8, because 1 plus 7 is 8, and you could always put that over 1, so then you can cross multiply like I've been doing. So 3x plus 2 times by 8, and that can come on the left, doesn't really matter. And then 4 times 1 becomes 4, and that can go the other side. Now you can open the brackets if you wish. So I've got 24x plus 16 equals to 4. And then taking away 16 both sides, I've got 4 take away 16 is negative 12. And then dividing both sides by 24, negative 12, divided by 24 is basically negative a half, which is negative 0.5. Okay, so what we are saying is that if fg of x equals 1, then that means that the x here, this x here, has to be negative 0.5. Okay, so that's how to approach this kind of equations, just applying algebra. What I want you to do now, I would like you to try question 1, 2, 2. I'll leave the answers there for you, which you can just basically use to mark your work. These are the ones you've done in the previous lessons, so they should be very, very easy. They should be very, very easy. Okay, so pause the video, have a go at them, and then play the video again. Okay, so I hope you've tried them. I'm just gonna really quickly try to do question 2a for you. Okay, question 2a for you, which says that solve the equation f of x equals 25. Now, what is f of x? F of x is basically 5x minus 7. And what they're saying is that is equals to 25. That's what they're saying here, isn't it? So you just equate that to, you just could equate that to 25. And then you solve this as you normally do. So 5x equals to 25 plus 7, which is 32. And then all you need to do now is to divide 32, divide by 5. And that can go in your calculator. Okay, so that's how to do that. Okay. And it's just basically checking again if you done the right thing, maybe you made a mistake. So I've got here f of x equals to 25. And I've just done a big mistake. You should notice that what I've done here is a massive mistake. I've been using, f of x in part 1 instead of part 2. Okay, so that's really a falsehood about that. But what I'm going to say is that you do the same thing. So you're going to say 4x plus 1 equals 25, and you just solve it in the same way. Okay. So if I just ignore that, that was a mistake, but that should still help you anyway, with doing your working out. Okay. So if you do that, it says f of x equals 25, and f of x in equation 2 is 4x plus 1, and that's equals to 25. Okay. Now, taking away x both sides, you're going to have 24. Taking away 1 both sides, you're going to have 24 on this side. So then I've got x equals to 24 divided by 4, which is basically 6 there. So you should see that that's the answer there, basically. Okay. Right, so hope you got that one. Now try this one, pause the videos again, and then try this quite quickly. These are basically the ones we did earlier. You've already done this, so have a go at them, and then just basically use these answers to mark your work. If you got them wrong, then I'm going to ask you to basically go back to my previous videos and just see how to do them. Okay, so we're done for that. Now have a go at question 10, please. Have a go at question 10 as well. Okay, let's hope you've tried that. So the only thing I've not done here will be a question like question C. So I'm just gonna go over question C for you quickly. Question A and question B, all you need to do is to go to back to my previous videos to help you with that. Okay, so I'm gonna go to question C quickly for you. So I've got work out the inverse of g of x first and then solve that. So let's get the inverse first. I've got g of x here, which is basically that is 3x minus 1. Now we say that g of x becomes y if you want to get the inverse. And then the next thing is to make x the subject. So I'm going to have y plus 1 over there, then divide by 3. That should give me x. Okay, so that's that. Then the next thing now is to make x becomes the inverse. So x becomes the inverse of g of x, and that is always equals to y plus 1. Y is x and then that's 1, all divided by 3. Okay. So this one here, we agree that becomes x in the inverse function. So we've done that. Then the next thing they want us to do is to find f inverse of g of x equals 55. So it's a composite function now. We've got the inverse of g of x, and all we need to do now is to make it become the input for f of x, then equate it to 55. Then equate it to 55. Okay. So let me do that for you. Right, so f. So the function f, f of x, we know that that is equals to 2x squared plus 5. But we don't want f of x, we want f inverse of g of x. So the inverse of g of x is what you're going to put in f, where x is. Okay, so you're going to have f inverse of g of x. So f inverse of g of x is going to be 2. So I've got 2 there, times by x squared. Now what's x squared now? The inverse of g of x, this. The whole of that becomes x. So x plus 1 all over 3. And that's being squared, remember. Okay, and then we're adding 5 out there. Okay, the next thing I want to do now is basically to simplify x plus 1 over 3. We need to simplify that and then square it by squaring it and then adding 5, and that should be equals to 55. Now what we might do here, instead of opening that bracket, because an equation, we can just ignore that bracket for a minute and just form the equation 55. It might be a good idea just to do that, because if you open the bracket, it becomes so complicated unnecessarily. Okay, right, so they say that the whole of this is equals to 55. Okay, so the whole of this is equals to 55. So if I just use this space here at the top, it says 2 bracket x plus 1 all over 3. That bracket is the whole bracket, so just remember that, plus 5 equals to 55. Okay, now we want to make x a subject because we want to find where x is. So we take away 5 both sides. So we got 2x plus 1 over 3 close bracket. That's equals to 50 now. Then what we can do, we can't open the bracket by these 2 because it's that power there. So never ever do 2 times x and 2 times 1 if you have power. Remember, indices have to be done first, and I don't want to do that. So what I can do is to remove that 2 here by dividing both sides by 2. So this is 2 times this thing. You can just basically do the opposite, divide 2 by both sides, divide 2 both sides. So you got x plus 1 all divided by 3, and this is being squared, and that's equals to 25. Okay, Now you can see how easy that is now. If I take this one away now, you can now see how easy that becomes now. So now I've got a square number, which is very easy to find the square root of. Okay, so you've got square here. If I want to make x subject, I need to square root both sides. If you square root both sides, it's going to have x plus 1 all over 3 equals to square root of 25, which becomes 5 on the positive side. Let's just take positive side first. If that's the case, then I've got x plus 1 equals to 5 times 3, which is going to be 15. And then taking away x both sides, then I'm going to have 16 and 14. Because you do 15 take away 1, which is going to be 14. Okay. And if you click at the answers, you find that x here is basically equals to 14 or negative 16. Now, that negative 16 is coming from the fact that, like I said earlier, that when you get to this stage here, trying to get square root of 25, one of the answers will be negative 5. Remember, negative 5 times negative 5 is 25 as well. So I can take this one off, and literally where f5 was, I can now put negative, because that's another answer, because that's going to be negative 5. And then we solve as we normally do. So that's going to be negative 5 there. So times both sides by 3, I've got x plus 1 equals to negative 15. Adding 1 on both sides, I've got x equals to negative 15 minus 1 becomes negative 16, as they say. Okay, so that's how to do that one. So I hope that was helpful. Okay, so if I just show you the answers quickly, and then if you just basically mark your answers quickly, please. So just use the answers here to basically mark your work. You just pause the video and just mark your mark. Okay. Now I hope you did well on that one. So the aim of the lesson today was just basically to look at various kind of questions they can ask in exam. Look at some problems that involve this, solving equations, forming equations and solving them. I would like you to try question 13, which is an application question. It says the function f of t equals to 9t take away 5 and 32 can be used to convert temperature from degrees Celsius to degrees Fahrenheit. So find f of 20. In other words, when t is 20, what is f of t going to be? Okay, so where t is, we put in 20. What is f of t going to be? What is the temperature going to be in degrees Fahrenheit? That is what f of t refers to. T is the temperature in degrees Celsius. Okay, so I want you to pause this video, then have a go at this. Where t is, you can put x, if that will make your life easier. So pause the video and have a go at it, and then I'm going to show you answers, and then you're just going to mark your work. Well done, hope you're done. So I'm just going to show you the answer quickly. So use that to mark your work, please. Okay, hope you're done. Right, so that's the end of this session. Remember, the aim of my videos is to make you get your A-star, all grade, get an A-star, or grade 8 or even 9 in your maths exam. That's my aim here. And what I would like you to do is basically to send to your friends this video. Just help others. Just send it to your friends as well in school. Send to anybody that you know might need this. Just send them through WhatsApp. Send them as a link in your email. And just basically promote it everywhere. Thank you very much.